1800 local time. Dozens of Ukrainian drones skimmed toward the Kerch Bridge at wavetop height, closing in on the most defended bridge in this war. 4 S-400s watch approaches. 2 Panzers are on the bridge itself, and mobile hunters prowl both banks, never parking in the same spot twice. Everything looked like an easy job for the Russians, but unknown to them, tonight was never about hitting the bridge. This time, they were the target. 12 minutes from the bridge, the lead drone slides past the Western Battery's own launch tubes, close enough to see the paint on them, and not one tube twitches. That is the S-400. NATO calls it the SA-21 Growler. Russia's longest-reaching air defense system, 4 radar vehicles and a dozen launchers guarding one stretch of coast. Its 40 N-6 missiles you see here weigh nearly 2 tons each and reach out for 400 kilometers, roughly New York to Pittsburgh, fast enough to gut an airliner at altitude. Right now, all of it is losing a staring contest with a garbage can lid. A second drone crosses behind it. Then a third. The leading edge of the swarm walks right up to the battery that's supposed to own this water, and the launchers stay frozen. Look at that drone that just slipped past point blank, an FP-1, Ukraine's long-range strike drone. 2.5 meters of plywood and foam wrapped around a 60 to 120 kilogram warhead that can fly 1,600 kilometers on inertial and satellite guidance. Inertial guidance means it counts its own turns and speed like a blindfolded sailor keeping a running tally. Nothing to jam. Satellite guidance means it's flying to a GPS pin, the same tech that drops a map marker on your phone. All of that throws back about as much radar energy as a garbage can lid. A fighter jet hands that S-400 dish a few square meters to grab. This drone hands it a fraction of one, buried in wave clutter. That same dish can spot a fighter past 400 kilometers away, but drop the target down to this plywood sliver and it goes nearly blind until the thing is right on top of it. Same glass, same eyes. The target just got small, and small is the whole point. There's a second trick working for the drones too: the shape of the planet. Radar shoots out in a straight line, and the Earth curves away under it, so anything low enough slips below the horizon it can't reach. A drone at wavetop height sits in that shadow until it's a few kilometers out. By then, it's already happening at knife fight range. Billions of dollars of radar engineering, beaten by a hobby store shopping list and the curve of the planet. Behind that silent battery, a crew watches a sky their radar swears is empty. 3 years into a drone war, nobody on this coast believes that anymore. They just can't do anything about it. A drone went down minutes ago on one exact line of bearing, and the Western radar swept that line clear, logged it dead, and moved on. Now its wingman rides the same line, untouched, straight into the blind spot that kill just proved was there. The crew locks a single blip and fires. One contact falls, clean kill. And the second drone rides the exact same line clean through, never once flagged as a target of its own. Here's why. Watch the radar beam widen the farther it reaches from the dish, half a degree at the source. But that cone keeps spreading, and a radar can only tell 2 things apart if they sit farther from each other than the beam is wide. Out at the edge, over open water, that cone grows wide enough to swallow 2 FP-1s flying side by side, and on the scope they fold into one return. 2 cars tailgating bumper to bumper through a toll booth. The camera only catches one plate, and both cars roll on through. The FP-1s fly deliberately paired inside that widening cone. Every merge is a free rider, and one of those riders isn't a drone at all. On the western bank, a Russian Tor M2 crew rolls their launcher to a fresh firing position, the third move this evening. Never sit still. Never park where the map says you'll be. That discipline has kept this crew alive for 3 years, and what they can't know is that the swarm filling their sector was never built to slip past their guns. It was built to make them shoot. The moment this truck stops and fires, it announces exactly where it sits, and something scarce and very large is drifting in over the water, listening for precisely that. Now the flood bends into their sector, and doctrine here is absolute. Engage the threat, hold the approach, let nothing through to the bridge behind them. So they stop the truck. 2 seconds, then 3. Motion sliding into stillness. A missile leaps straight up and out of its tube, tips over at the top of the climb, and corkscrews back down onto an FP-1 and swats it clean out of the air. In the cab, the launch slams through the hull, a hard thud up through the seats, the smell of it venting past the hatch seals. Then a second, then a third. Real work, and the crew is good at it. Every one of those wins has a price, and the gunners inside that cab can feel it. That missile has no seeker, no brain of its own, no eye in the nose. The truck flies it the entire way by radio, steering it down a beam the radar has to hold on the target from launch to impact. Look at the little antenna riding on top of the dish. That is how it steers. The truck can't fire and forget. It has to keep the beam nailed to that one drone for the entire flight. 3 or 4 seconds of full intention per shot. Fine against one target. Against 40 crossing at once, every leash it holds is a leash it can't put on anything else. Look at the truck itself. Those vertical tubes, and the fact that it's stopped cold to use them. This is the Specialist, the one system in the whole fight actually built for exactly this. Something low and slow. Cold launch straight up, no turret to swing. Reacting in a handful of seconds. But 8 missiles in the tubes is all it carries. And to fire even one, the truck has to stop cold out in the open. More drones up there than missiles down here. Every shot nails the shooting scoot to a spot on the map, rooted. The truck fires again, radiating hard now, motionless, pinned, like your wife finding you because you left Find My iPhone on. Except getting located here is a lot worse than sleeping on the couch. And out of the low sun over the water, something enormous punches in low and straight at the parked truck. No weaving, no last-second correction, nothing. The western firing site erupts. One flash, and the whole bank whites out the horizon. 14 meters of missile just came out of the dusk, the size of a school bus, FP-5 Flamingo. A Ukrainian cruise missile with a 3,000-kilometer range, cruising at roughly 950 kilometers per hour. Boston to Washington in under an hour, after slipping out of Ukraine, crossing the Black Sea at wavetop height, and threading up the strait behind the drone swarm. Warhead, 1,150 kilograms, 2.5 times a Tomahawk missiles, about as subtle as your neighbor firing up his Harley at 6 in the morning. The Flamingo has exactly one clean job, not threading a needle, just dropping a sledgehammer on a target that announced where it's standing. One truck down, one bank dealt with. But there was a second tour sitting on the opposite shore, and it had just watched exactly what happens to anyone who fires. The Eastern Tour crew did the only smart thing left, moved the truck, went dark on the radar, and flatly refused to fire on anything at all. An FP-1 crosses the eastern bank at rooftop height, straight over the second tour, and the truck does nothing. It rolls quietly between positions, tubes cold, and lets the drone fly right over the roofline and away into the dusk behind it. See that truck sitting silent, tubes loaded, deliberately letting a drone pass overhead? It can still hunt on its own thermal sight, tracking the heat on a target without radiating a watt. Stay silent, survive the evening. But a tour that won't light up its radar engages far worse, and it can't tell anybody else on the coast what's coming. A security guard who unplugs his own cameras so the burglars can't spot it. Sure, he's safe. He's also watching nothing while they stroll through the front door. And the flood pours through the eastern gap the frightened truck won't contest. 90 seconds to the towers. The swarm crosses the last of the open water with nothing left in front of it. On a mast hoisted high over the deck, launch tubes flash against the dusk. 2 missiles up, 2 FP-1s gone. The tubes cycle, reload. 2 more up, 2 more gone. And drones keep crossing over the deck behind them, faster than the tubes can answer. So the count out over the water keeps climbing no matter how fast that mast fires. Here's what the crew can't see yet. The swarm isn't trying to get past this tower. The tower is the target, and every drone it burns a missile on is a drone doing its job. Panzer S-1, NATO designation SA-22 Greyhound. Russia's answer to the drone problem on one truck. Twin 30mm cannons for anything close, 12 57 E6 radio command missiles for anything farther out. each one carrying a 20-milligram blast fragmentation warhead out to 20 kilometers at 1,300 meters a second, roughly the distance between downtown Chicago and O'Hare Airport, covered in under 16 seconds. Plus its own radar bolted to the same chassis to find them all. The textbook drone hunter, the thing every other air defense system calls when a drone shows up. And it's already losing. Bolted to a tower, nowhere to go. Its missile carries no seeker at all, so the crew on the ground has to fly everyone in by radio all the way to the target. And it can steer only 4 missiles at once out of the 12 sitting ready in its tubes. Russia's own arms chief admitted last year that 12 rounds sometimes isn't enough when a swarm this big shows up. Rushed a whole variant into production that ditches the guns and packs 48 of a smaller missile instead, just to have enough rounds for a raid like this. Drones now arrive faster than 4 guided shots can clear. The 5th, the 6th, the 7th cross the deck while all 4 channels fly missiles already in the air. A customer service line with 4 reps and 40 people on hold. They can hear every call come in and can still only talk to that handful at a time. The rest just sitting there waiting, and the hold music is the sound of drones crossing the deck for free. And the flood keeps coming faster than the channels ever empty, the leakers streaming over the deck. Then the tubes run dry, and the worst moment arrives. 12 missiles gone, and now the launcher has to reload. A crane hauling fresh rounds up onto the mast, seconds stretching into most of a minute. Watch the empty rails during that stretch. A drone that comes in high during that window, up where the guns can't reach. No missile ready. Nothing on that tower can touch it. The radar still sees it all. The guns still reach the low ones, but the missiles are just gone for most of a minute, and the swarm doesn't wait. Everything that crosses during that gap crosses for free. A Panzer spends a chunk of its night as an expensive spectator to its own defeat. Then the twin 30mm barrels swing across and open up, a solid rope of tracer, 2,500 rounds a minute out of each barrel, and shred a drone to confetti in an instant. The whole mast shudders with it. One long tearing vibration you'd feel in your teeth from the deck below, and a second drone crosses just above the tracer stream and flies on, untouched. A missile detonates squarely on top of an inbound drone. Clean burst, right on the mark. And the drone flies straight out of the far side of the smoke, shedding splinters, still tracking toward the deck. That clean burst was the Panzer's proximity fuse doing exactly what it was designed to do, against the wrong target. The drone shrugs off the blast, somehow still flying. The Panzer's warhead exists to swat jets and cruise missiles, and its fuse thinks that's what it's looking at. It's a shotgun choked tight for geese, and the target crossing the sky is a paper kite. Wrong load. That warhead throws a cloud of fragments meant to shred something big and thin-skinned, an aircraft, a cruise missile. A plywood drone with almost nothing vital inside takes a face full of that and keeps right on flying. That shot costs more than a year of college, spent on a thing you could build in a garage. The survivor presses in, and behind it, riding its wake, comes something that was never a drone. The surviving FP-1 slams in first, and the Flamingo rides its wake, a drone hunter, taken out on the very bridge it was built to guard. And here's the part the defenders never had a vote in. The FP-1 that just hit that tower wasn't chasing anything. It was flying to a set of numbers. Map coordinates loaded into it before it ever left the field in Ukraine. The Panzer's tower pinned down days ago by satellite. That fix rides on GPS, the same satellite grid the American taxpayer put into orbit decades ago so a phone could drop a pin on a restaurant. Tonight it's dropping a pin on a Russian air defense tower, accurate to a few meters, and it never has to check in again once it's locked. No last-second decision, no target lock to break, no data link to jam. The drone doesn't care that the tower is shooting at it. It only cares about a spot on the Earth, and it flies at that spot until it arrives. Now with one bridge tower burning, the western sky blind, and the flood doesn't thin, it swells. Every surviving drone in the strait ripping in hard on whatever's left standing. A surviving S-400 antenna sweeps across a low FP-1 skimming the chop. The drone crosses a full kilometer of open water. Not one missile leaves the rails to meet it. If that antenna can't build a track down in the clutter, nothing behind it fires, and the bridge loses its last eyes on the water. Look at the sea underneath that drone. A whole strait of moving water, every wave throwing the radar's own energy right back up at it. The beam that reaches the drone also floods off the wavetops and the shoreline, bouncing home as thousands of false returns. And a drone at that lazy crawl barely stands out from the churn. Its slow crawl sits right down in the clutter the radar has to throw away just to see anything at all. And off the water, the beam ghosts and doubles back in on itself, painting targets that were never there. 2 more S-400 antennas go dark. 3 out of 4 are blind now. Inside the surviving battery, the commander already knows how this ends. Behind him sit the launchers, tall canisters of missiles that can reach 400 kilometers, enough firepower to hold off a squadron of fighters. Every one of them is useless right now. A launcher is just a tube until the radar tells it where to shoot, and his radar is choking on a picture it can't clear. He can point his one good shot at a single drone and put it down clean. 5 more cross behind it while he does. Each FP-1 in that swarm runs about $55,000 to build. Each S-400 missile sitting useless in its tubes cost upward of $1 million. 40 drones, the price of 2 missiles. He isn't outgunned. The math beat him, not the firepower. Tens of millions of dollars of missiles he can't aim fast enough to matter. Somewhere in Moscow, an accountant is going to have questions. On the eastern bank, the last tour crew feels the network dying around them and hits the Sentry's dilemma at its cruelest. Stay dark, let the last antenna and the last Panzer go down undefended, or light up and fight. They light up, all in. 2 missiles leave the tubes, 2 drones drop out of the sky, and the instant they radiate, they're pinned on the map. Then the truck gets a late track on a wavetop drone and fires. The missile arcs right past it and corkscrews off into empty sky, because the drone's already too close. That miss wasn't bad aim. The drone was already inside the arming floor. The Tor's missile needs about 1,500 meters of flight before it will even arm. And a drone popping out of the sea clutter close aboard is often already inside that floor. And the careful shot, the one that waits for a clean track, sails clean under the drone. A shotgun in a hallway, devastating at 20 feet. Useless once somebody's already in your living room with a hand on your collar. The last mobile hunter, located now out of the good shots, breaks off its position and rolls away with its magazine spent, driven out of the fight for good. 30 seconds. Everything lands on the final bridge panzer at once. All of it, in the same handful of seconds. 4 channels swamped, gun split high and low, the fuse punching straight through plywood. Its twin on the far tower already smoke, and the eastern Tor that should have covered it now driven off and silent. Every scene from the entire engagement lands on this one tower together. The last Panzer empties its remaining tubes into the flood, and one contact it waved off as just another drone doesn't fly like the others. Remember that handful of Flamingos, each one pointed at something that matters? This is where the last one was always going. See these 2 coming down the exact same line? The little plywood FP-1 and the 14-meter Flamingo right behind it. And here's the whole thing, the part they never had a chance at. Every plywood decoy, every pair of drones merged into one blip, every drone that ate a missile or flew straight through a fuse. None of it was ever trying to reach the bridge. All of it was trying to look exactly like the one thing that was. To that radar, they've been identical all evening. A plywood sliver and a school bus-sized cruise missile it simply can't tell apart until the big one is already on top of it. The defenders spent the entire evening sorting envelopes and never once found the right one in time. Nobody on the Russian side ever cracked it. The tower burned all 12 of its missiles on drones it couldn't sort from the Flamingo now bearing down on it. 40 identical envelopes on a table, and just one of them holds the charge. You can't open them fast enough, and you're out of time. The one truck built to beat the drones for a living, undone by never knowing which drone was the one that mattered. Then the last bridge panzer detonates under a warhead better than 1,000 kilograms of it. The tower shatters, the launcher shredded off the mast it was chained to. On the deck it was standing there to defend. 2 Panzer systems worth roughly $15 million apiece, and a 4-radar S-400 network that cost the better part of $1 billion went down to a raid built from $55,000 drones and $500,000 missiles. The Kerch Bridge just lost every radar and gun that was supposed to guard it in under an hour for pocket change by comparison. Moscow can rebuild the network. It can't unteach Ukraine what worked tonight. And the next raid over this strait will exploit lessons this one just handed them for free. If you enjoyed this video, then watch this one, where drones destroy Putin's hometown. Bye for now.